I welcome you all today for the webinar on the Invoice Management System by Mr. S.S. Gupta and SuperTax. Mr. S.S. Gupta is a well-known authority in the field of indirect taxation with memberships in ICAI, ICWA, and ICSI. His extensive experience is reflected through his numerous seminars, lectures, and published works, which are widely referenced in the field. Beyond his professional achievements, Mr. Gupta is actively engaged with several social organizations and continues to make significant contribution to the domain of indirect taxation. The technology partner, SuperTax, is a leading software product company offering a range of solutions powered by RPA, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. SuperTax's GST solution streamlines end-to-end compliances, making tax management more efficient. With over 1,500 large clients relying on them, SuperTax is thrilled to be at the forefront of GST compliance automation. The flow of today's events shall be like this. First, we'll have presentation by Mr. S.S. Gupta on IMS, followed by a quick demo of IMS by SuperTax. Thereafter, we will have Q&A session open for participants. Participants can even share their questions in the Q&A box during the presentation. With this, I request Mr. S.S. Gupta to kindly share his presentation and initiate the webinar. Over to you, Mr. S.S. Gupta.
Yes. Thank you very much, Neha, for nice introduction. And friends, as you all know, that the government has introduced new invoice management system. It is not new actually. If you go back to the GST Act in 2017, many things were planned, but ultimately the portal did not support all these activities. I will take you to the background, and with this PPT, just I'll show you the PPT first. Can you see the PPT?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you remember, section 37 and 38 we are referring to. These section, as this is what is appearing now, has been deleted. But if you go back to what was prevailing in 2017, then this was a section. Section 37(2) read, every registered person who has been communicated the details of subsection 3 of section 38 or the details pertaining to inward supplies of input service distributor under subsection 4 of section 38 shall either accept or reject the details so communicated, which means every supplier which has filed GSTR1, it will be reflected in dashboard of the recipient, and as it is in IMS system now, he has to keep it accept or reject the details so communicated on or before 17 day, but not before the 15th day of the month succeeding the tax period. That was the time period given. So if you now read with this section 38(1), which was the input tax credit provision, every registered person other than the input service distributor, non-resident taxable person, or a person paying tax under the provisions of section 10 or section 51 or 52 shall, now this is more important, shall verify, validate, modify, or delete, if required, the details relating to outward supply and credit or debit note communicated to him under subsection 37(1) to prepare the details of his inward supplies and credit or debit notes, and may include then the details of inward supplies and credit or debit notes received by him in respect of such supplies. So you see, 38(1) authorize the recipient to verify, validate, modify or delete. This word modification, if you look at, I have not incorporated section 41 and 43 and all that thing, which because it's not a pass, it's now all been deleted. Even permitted you to add the invoices which are not reflected in your GSTR 2A. So the way it was planned is that when you look at GSTR 2A, if you compare the GSTR 2A with your books of account and you come to a conclusion that look, 10 invoices have not been incorporated in my GSTR 2A, as per this section, you are permitted to incorporate the 10 invoice in GSTR 2A. And those 10 invoices, the credit was provisionally allowed to you because the system was planned that those 10 invoices will go back to the supplier, and the question will be asked to supplier that so and so is saying, yeah, I have received supplies from you. What you have to say, please answer. Supplier can thereafter either reject or say I have accepted, or either reject or accept it. If he rejects, the message will come to the recipient again that whatever you have added as a GSTR 2A, and that will not be permitted because the supplier is not agreeing to your submission that you have received the supply. And that amount which is supplier is rejected will be added back to your outputs workflow. The point which I am making is what is now being introduced in Invoice Management System was earlier contemplated in section 37 and 38. In fact, 38 was much wider than this. And the idea was that after 30, you have completed 38, 1, 2, 3, and all those things. The system itself will prepare what is the credit available to you. And that credit will be reflected in GSTR 3, which never got implemented. GSTR 3, if you look at it, the credit was being auto-populated from the GSTR 1 and 2, and that was the system which is planned. But since the government was not able to incorporate all these details, they have found out as against GSTR 3, GSTR 3B. If you remember, up to 21, the GSTR 3 was never deleted. 3B was only kept as a stopgap arrangement. But when they realized that they can't make such a robust system, that the now GSTR 3B is part of section 39 itself and not the section 61, rule 61. So therefore, what I'm saying is this system which was contemplated was already there in section 37, 38. But now they're introducing slightly milder form than this. See, the problem with what the government feels, and I think they are only looking at the MSMEs while they draft the law. The credit and the accounting in the larger organization rarely synchronizes. What the government feels is that if you have received the invoice in January month, in the same month it gets accounted also, and therefore you can avail the credit in January and you can avail it will be reflected in GSTR 2A or 2B. But what we have seen actually in practice is that the invoices travel to the finance department after it is being approved by the respective department who have placed the order. For example, if the purchase department of raw material has placed the order, it will be received in the factory. Goods received note will be prepared. Then the quality control test will be done. Quality control test will be added to the GRN note. After that, the acceptance will be made of the material. Then it travels to the purchase department or any other department who will sanction the purchase bills raised by the supplier. And then finally for the payment purposes or accounting purposes, it comes to finance department. This may happen in the same month. This may not happen in the same month. Because after 2021, if the supplies which is continuously being received, the accounting may take in after second month, third month. This is a simple receipt of raw material. But if it's a repairs and maintenance, where engineers have to certify that yes, maintenance has been done properly, repair has been done properly, some construction has happened, I mean, it takes a lot of time. And if you find that some defect is there, then the accounting may get delayed 1 or 2 months, 3 months also. So this system which we are now going to discuss, the new management system, is going to create issues on that affairs, which we will see as we proceed further in the system. What is the new system now says, which is there? As you all know that every person, supplier is required to file GSTR1 by the 10th of the month. That's a mandatory aspect. He has to file by 10th of the month. Then this, whatever he files, it will be reflected in your dashboard in your invoice management system. From 14th October 2024 onwards. Taxpayers who are registered as regular taxpayer or SEZ unit or developer and casual taxpayer will be able to access these IMS functionalities. Now, when it gets reflected in your system, you have to either accept or reject or keep it pending. Now, these are three functions which you are required to do at the time when you receive these invoices, or when it is reflected in your dashboard. On what basis? Now, this functions normally in a large organization. This will be assigned to the tax department. Now, you imagine the tax department accepting or rejecting or keeping it pending. Then there's a provision that it will be, if you do not take any action, that will be deemed acceptance. So it will be deemed to have been accepted by you if there is no other, no action is taken by you. What the tax department before acceptance will have to ensure is that in accounts also it is reflected. Because tax department cannot straight away accept the invoice. And once you accept the invoice, it will get reflected in your 2B. So unless the invoice gets accounted for in your account, the acceptance will mean that you have accepted the amount, but we are not sure whether service or goods are received or not. The fact that the invoice is reflected in your GST, in your 2B system or your IMS board, it doesn't mean that you are complied with Section 16 provision. For any credit which you take, the responsibility under Section 155 is on you to see that you have complied with the provisions of Section 16. So before acceptance, now for a small proprietary function, partnership firm, where the proprietor himself knows everything, he knows what material is received, what services are received. So there he can immediately take the decision of acceptance of the invoice. But in a large corporate, where the tax department will have to depend on the accounting made by the finance department of any invoice which is being accounted for, then only the person can say that I have accepted I can accept it. Now, if you reject it, then your rejection would mean that you have not received the supply. The supply is not received, therefore it will go back to the supplier. Now, you have to compare this with your accounts, and until it is compared, it may remain in pending. So when you are actually taking an action of the acceptance, rejection, or keep it pending, the best way would be, unless you are very sure, you do not reject it, but you keep it pending so it is available in the dashboard for the subsequent month. Please do not keep it blank, because there is a provision of deemed acceptance. And once it's a deemed acceptance, means it will be get reflected in 2B once, irrespective whether you have accounted fit or not. So in your books of account, it may not be there, but the credit it will be reflected in the credit amount. That will create mismatch between the accounts and the credit which is available. That's why I said in the beginning that the government feels that whatever supplies are received by us in the month, same month it gets accounted for, and therefore the credit will be available to him on the same month. Luckily, they have kept the window for pending, and that pending one you must always enjoy, that keep it pending till you are sure that it is accounting has been made on this. The pending invoices will be reflected in the new in the next month also on your dashboard. Now, which are the records? You see, if you look at the 3B, form 3B in table 4, the credit gets divided into various subheads. The credit issued by supplier, that is forward charges. Debit notes issued by supplier, again forward charges. Credit note issued by supplier, against forward charges. These are forward charges. But in addition to this, you have the credit being reflected through your input service distributor system. So you are registered as ISD, and you're raising an invoice on the various recipient with the same PAN number. The credit gets reflected. You will avail the credit in your 3B at the recipient end on the basis of invoice raised by ISD. That will not be available in your IMS system. I don't know, future it may be available. Similarly, the credit on import of goods. Now, when you import the goods, we are paying IGST on importation of goods through bill of entry, where you prepare the bill of entry, and that bill of entry is reflected in IceGate. So on the IceGate, whatever bill of entry is reflected, that credit will be available to you. It gets reflected to me nowadays, but it will not be part of IMS system. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the credit which you are availing on the basis of bill of entry. And third is GST paid on reverse charge. Now, on the reverse charge, as you are aware, Section 9(3) permits the government to issue a notification specifying the goods and services on which the tax is payable by the recipient of goods or services and not by the supplier of goods and services. These basically are twofold. One is on the import of services. That is where you receive the services from a person who is located in non-taxable territory, and the place of supply is in India. That is one aspect to it. And secondly, there are certain services which are specified in the notification number 13 of 2017, issued under Section 9(3) of the GST Act. Some of these services which is commonly security agency services, sponsorship services, insurance agent services. There are so many services which are there. These, again, the tax is paid by you by preparing the invoice under Section 31(3)(f) and all that. You are entitled for a credit in the month in which the tax is paid. Basically, the challan and the document on which you pay the tax is a basis for availing the credit, and not the invoice of the raised by the supplier. At that, these three items, IGST paid on import of goods, GST paid on reverse charge, and credit are received through ISD, that will not be available in your IMS system. So wherever it's a forward charge mechanism, that only will be shown in the system. I mean, by this, as I said, in the 3B, you are reflecting the credit in various columns. What credit you are reflecting in table 4A5 of Form 3B will only be reflected in IMS system, which means IMS system will help you to prepare the credit amount for the purpose of reflecting in column 4A5. That's all. Rest all column, still whatever amount you want to fill up from your accounts and all that, you should continue to fill up on that. Below records, which I already explained to you. Invoice debit credit notes issued by RCM supplier by registered supplier. There, whosoever RCM supplier is there, that will not be reflected in your IMS board. Invoices, debit note, credit note issued by ISD also, GSTR 6. Invoices issued by non-resident taxable person in GSTR 5. Import of goods in ISGate. And invoice debit notes on which ITC is not eligible as per section 16(4) of the CGST Act. What looks like is that after the period of October, this will they will take out everything from the dashboard, and it will be only in the next year it will be reflected. Invoice where place of supply is other than home state. These are some of the states, like you stay in the hotel. Suppose your office is in Mumbai and you have gone in Delhi for some work, and you have stayed in the hotel in Delhi. As we all know that in case of accommodation services provided by the hotel, the place of supply is a location where the hotel is situated. So when you stay in the hotel will charge you CGST and SGST of Delhi, because the place of supply is in Delhi as per section 12. Therefore, he charges CGST and SGST of Delhi. In the invoice which he will upload in GSTR 1, the place of supply will be shown as Delhi. That invoice, because you are in Maharashtra, the place of supply is Delhi, those invoices also will not be reflected in the IMS system. So wherever there is a place of supply different, it will not be reflected in the system. And basically because government doesn't want to give you the credit for those invoices, therefore they feel it will be, they will try to control this by not reflecting in IMS system. ITC reversal reclaim under Rule 42, 43, 37, 37A. As you all know that we are required to pay the amount to the supplier within 180 days from the date of invoice. And if you do not pay the amount within 180 days, you are required to pay back the amount, reverse the credit along with interest after 180 days. However, whenever you make the payment to the supplier, you make the payment after 240 days, after 300 days, whenever you make the payment, you can avail the credit at that point of time. As you all know that reversal in such cases will have to be made in the appropriate column in GSTR 3B, which says that the credit can be reclaimable. In a sense that you are making a reversal, but the credit is, you can reclaim it as and when you comply with the condition. So this is, as I said, 180 days is one of the example where you can retake the credit, and whenever you reverse it, you ensure that the amount is reflected in reclaimable amount so that the credit is reflected. That's the second. In sometimes 42, 43, what happens is, that 42, 43 is the reversal of credit, proportionate credit, or reversal of the earlier credit for use in the exempted supplies. Every month you go on reversing the credit based on your formula given in 42 and 43. That is, you bifurcate the credit between T1, T2, T3, T4 and all that. And then arrive at the amount of credit which is reflected. The amount of credit which you go on reversing every month, as per section for rule 42, after the year end, you are required to recompute based on your accounts whether the credit reversed by you is short or is excess credit reversal. In case of short credit reversal, you are required to pay back the amount. Again, differential amount you have to pay back. In case of excess reversal, which means amount which you are making a monthly is actually a provisional reversal. And 1 minute. Is a provisional reversal, and that excess credit when you take it back in the month of June or July, whatever period you want, you should take it as fast as possible. That credit again, because you are straight away taking in 3B, there is no document which is required to be prepared except the fact that you should have a backup working to substantiate why it is an excess credit which is there. That also will not be reflected in IMS because basically it's a retaking of a credit which your earlier excess reversal is there, and therefore it is not taken. It will not be reflected in IMS system. One thing I must tell you, IMS system is only a facilitation by the government to compute the credit available to you on the supplies received from supplier who are going to pay GST on FCM basis. This is not replacing section 16 or any other section. Section 16 compliance will be there, will have to be there. The excess, wherever companies have taken the excess credit, excess reversal of recredit, and the department has issued show cause notices saying that this amount is not reflected in GST or 2B and 3B and all that this thing. But that nothing to worry. We'll have to go on taking the credit in this. One aspect we must remember is that very often, why I'm stressing it nowadays, the lot of merger and acquisition and all that takes place. And one company gets merged, one division gets merged into other this thing. It's a day-to-day affairs which is there. In case of merger and acquisition also, whenever the company gets merged, say A gets merged into B, and the effective date is say 1st of August 2024. Now, whatever you may try, our experience is that some invoices which remains for accounting as on 31st July of A, and that is subsequently received by B when it is merged. Now, A receives the invoices supplier from X and Y and so and so. Now, one way is you forget the credit. If it's a small amount, you should not avail the credit at all. If it's a large amount, the B actually steps into the shoes of A after the merger. And therefore, whatever credit which A would have availed, had they continued not merged, that credit will still be available to B. So such invoices will get reflected in the IMS of A, not of B. I hope you get it, because the registration number of A will be put by the supplier. And in such cases, even if it is not there, you can avail the credit, but be ready, you have to contest it. As I said, there is no condition in section 16 that the credit must be reflected in IMS. And then only you can take a credit. It's not there. So as long as you comply with section 16 provision, even if you find that some credit is not available, I mean, you must try to see that it gets reflected in IMS system. But if it is not available in IMS system, that doesn't mean that you lost all the credit. You can still avail the credit. You have to contest the department's contention. The department will blindly issue a show cause notice for denial of credit. Then what action to be taken? I think this we have almost covered in this thing. Except these invoices shall form part of GST or 2B when ITC is available. Moment you accept it, reject. These invoices shall form part of GST 2B if ITC is rejected. Pending these invoices will not form part of the GST or 2B. Of the recipient as ITC is rejected. Okay. And pending, these invoices will not form part of this. This will get reflected and carry forward. Because I mentioned to you that if we are not rejecting it, then it will be remaining pending. Deemed acceptance, these invoices on which no action is taken shall be deemed acceptance and shall form part of the ITC available of the recipient. Kindly see, you must take action. Deemed acceptance without accounting of invoices in the large corporate, in a smaller partnership firm and proprietary firm where the owner knows what is come, what has not come, and it is easy for us. But in the case of large organization, you must have matching with the accounts, and therefore deemed acceptance should not be there. As far as possible, keep it pending if you can't accept or reject it in this. This is what I have been harping on. The onus to substantiate at all conditions, section 16(2) of GST Act have been complied with is on recipient. So merely because your 2B is reflected, IMS it is reflected, and you have accepted the invoice or deemed acceptance is made, and the invoice gets reflected in GST at 2B, it doesn't mean that you are complied with section 16(2) conditions. You will have to independently prove that 16(2) your goods are received, you have made the payment within 180 days, a supplier has paid the tax also in GST and filed GST or 3B. These are all you have filed the return, or this is being used in the in supplying the output supply, which is taxable, not going for exempted supply, used for business purpose. All these conditions will have to be substantiated. I mean, you can't say that it's reflected in the IMS system, therefore credit will be available to me. There is no deeming fiction that IMS system invoices appearing in IMS system. It is deemed that the section 16(2) conditions have been complied with. There is no deeming fiction at all on this. Therefore, before accepting the invoice, it's essential that that's I already harped upon it. Now this is very dangerous. See, recipient cannot keep below documents as pending. It must either accept or reject before filing 3B for that month. The first is original credit note. This you must remember. As you all know, section 34 of the GST Act provides empowers you to issue the credit note in certain circumstances. Now, moment a supplier issues the credit note, the value of supply gets reduced. If a supplier issues the credit note, which the tax amount will be reduced. Adjustment will be made for the tax amount for which the credit note has been issued in the supplier's tax amount payable by the supplier. For example, say you are filing a return for the month of September 24, and you issue the credit note for 20 lakhs plus 18% GST that is 3,60,000 GST. And your this month supply is a 1 crore. As per section 34, provided it is within the time limit which is specified in section 34, that is by October end, the value of supply will get reduced to 80 lakhs, and your tax liability in 1 crore, suppose 18 lakhs is 18%, then it will be reduced by 3,60,000, and the tax liability will be 14,40,000. The supplier, when he uploads the credit note, he will definitely reduce his tax liability. And he's already reduced the tax liability and paid 14,40,000. If you do not accept this credit note, if you accept the credit note, your credit will get reduced. That means suppliers, you accepted that the value of suppliers is reduced. The credit which you originally availed was higher, and therefore your credit will get reduced. If you reject the credit note, the supplier's tax liability will increase. So in either case, I mean, what is stated as per the this note which has come out is that you can't keep this pending. If you accept, you are in trouble. If you reject, supplier is in trouble. Therefore, it is suggested that whenever supplier intends to pass on the credit, give the credit note with the tax amount. If he issues a credit note without tax amount, it is not required to reflect in the GSTR 1. But if he issues the tax without the tax with tax amount, now he must, after October, you must tell all the supplier that, look, please talk to us before you issue a credit. This, I think, unless they allow you to keep it pending, this is create a lot of problem. Let me explain this by example to you. Suppose you received the material in the factory, raw material in the factory, in the month of September 24. As I explained to you, normally in the factory, you will prepare a goods received note. There will be quality control test. And you received the goods on, say, 25th September. I'm giving example only. September 24. And so 5th October, the quality control reports that material is rejected. Moment material is rejected, the recipient will not account that invoice in their GST, in their credit note, in their credit amount. Because it is not accounted for in the books of account, therefore the recipient will not take the credit of that amount also. However, the supplier may upload the invoice because it is supply is made during the month of September, and the supplier will upload the invoice, and then it will be reflected in the IMS system. Now imagine, after having uploaded the invoice and it has come in the IMS system, if a supplier now issues a credit note to you, you are not taken the credit, but now the supplier issues the credit note to you in the month of October and upload that invoice credit note in GSTR 1. If you accept such invoice, such credit note, your credit amount will get reduced, although originally you are not taken a credit. And if you, reject it, it will get increased by the supplier's amount, supplier's tax liability will get increased. Now this system, unless they allow it to keep it pending, the credit note, which is likely to have a lot of problems in the system, they must keep it allowed to pending. Otherwise, every problem will start. What is happening, what the government must have felt is that whenever a supplier has issued the credit note, supplier has reduced the tax liability, but there is no mechanism by which the government is able to verify that the recipient has reversed the credit. And if you remember that to this end only, recently in the council meeting, they have circulated that wherever by circular, wherever the government wants to verify the recipient has reversed the credit, the supplier has no mechanism to find out, because ultimately entire reversal is reflected in GSTR 3B as a consolidated amount. There is no invoice-wise reversal made in this. Therefore, you can take a certificate from a chartered accountant certifying that recipient has reversed the credit of the invoices for which the credit note is issued. Possibly in order to verify these things, that the government has prepared this IMS. But kindly see, if you receive a credit note after October, you must issue a circular to all the suppliers that before you issue a credit note, please ensure you talk to us. Because in either case, and don't accept such credit note, let it go to the supplier back. You reject those credit notes, talk to him, and then again let him issue it again, whatever your settlement you come into this thing. Next is the upward amendment of credit note. When you want to revise the credit note to upward side, same treatment which you should do. Downward amendment to the credit note, same this thing. Downward amendment of invoice debit note where original note was accepted by the recipient, respective 3B also. These four things have a lot of implication on both supplier and the recipient. Therefore, we must ensure that supplier informs us or talks to us before the action is taken. And the tax department will not be able to do anything unless the purchase department tells them that, look, it is to be accepted, rejected, what is to be done. Now, then I already covered this thing. There is no clarity in the circular which they have issued, whether the records on which no action is taken will be deemed to have been accepted. We don't know, but let us see as the time goes, we'll see that thing. This we have shown by the example, what is to be done. Supplier issues the invoice having taxable value of 1,000 and GST of 18%. That is, liability in the GSTR of supplier is 180 rupees. If you accept it, it will get reflected in 180 rupees in your credit. Supplier's liability doesn't changes, but your credit amount increases. In case of invoices, action of acceptance, rejection, or keep it pending does not increase the liability of the supplier. There is no action taken by the supplier. Invoice doesn't have problem. The problem is with those four items which we have reflected earlier in this. Then supplier issues the credit note having taxable value of so and so. This, which I explained to you, is the issue which we already dealt with this thing. And therefore, our suggestion is again and again is that the section 34, you must talk to the supplier before he issues the credit note. Or you can make a part of purchase order also in this. Action by recipient. Action can be taken by recipient as soon as the invoice is reflected in GST Portal supplier. See, now, by law, legal provision is that the supplier should upload the invoice by 10th of the month. And then it is reflected in IMS dashboard by 11th or 12th on this thing. However, now you can make a purchase order condition itself that moment goods are accepted or services are accepted, the supplier will immediately upload the invoice. He doesn't wait for 10 because then it starts getting reflected in your dashboard immediately. And you get sufficient time to take action on that dashboard, entries which are reflected in the dashboard. Or you can imagine in a large corporate where the goods are where there are huge number of, say, 10,000 invoices are being credit being taken or accounted for, if everything comes to you on 10th of the month or 11th of the month, you hardly have time of, because all the action needs to be taken before 3B is filed, and 3B is filed on 20th of the month. So in 9 days time to take action, and then you make a GSTR 2B and then make the credit amount reflection, it will be difficult for you. Therefore, it is suggested that as per the purchase order, I mean, you will talk to the purchase department, we'll have to convince that once the IMS system is in full form, that the invoice should be uploaded by whatever time you feel, within 10 days of supply, within 15 days of supply, whatever time you have internally to communicate to him that the supply has been accepted or rejected, whatever period you feel. If you feel that you can confirm to him within 10 days that the supply has been accepted, then moment he is accepted within 5 days, 6 days time, he should upload that invoice in the system so that it gets reflected in your IMS system immediately. Although the law permits action can be taken multiple times on invoice or override the previous action, it should be avoided. Let me tell you, this government will get the inkling that what is happening if you go on amending the this thing multiple times. They'll suspect the transaction. And therefore, once the suspicious transaction comes, you find that the DGGI or investigating officer will start visiting your offices to find out what is happening in the why there is multiple times the invoices are being corrected or overwritten. And we have seen in a number of cases, by mistake, some companies have in, say, GSTR 1 declared lesser amount, although they paid higher amount. So you say in the month of August 24, you declared in GSTR 1 supply of 2 crore, but actually it was 2 crore 20 lakhs. By mistake, you forgot to declare 5 invoices which you had supplied in GSTR month of August. You have paid the tax on 20 lakhs also. That one to find out. But when those invoices got reflected in the month of September, the September GSTR 1 was showing a higher liability, but the actual payment was less. And immediately the person came into the factory and to find out why you have paid less amount. So be careful whenever you are amending the invoices multiple times, the department may take action on this thing. All action taken by a recipient will be frozen on filing of GSTR 3B for the month. That is all which can, after 3B is filed, the matter ends. If 3B filing is delayed, then to that action you can take it. But moment you file the 3B, your credit got frozen and that amount will be reflected. Supplier can view the action taken by recipient. I mean, you accept or reject or keep it pending. That facility will be available to the supplier to find out. Then the draft GSTR 2B will be first generated by the portal on 14th of each month on the basis of action taken by recipient till such date. And that will be after you're seen this GSTR 2B, I don't know who will have time to do all these things is a question. You get on 14th each month on the basis of action taken by recipient. Then on the 2B, if you want to update it, GSTR 2 will be required to be regenerated on this to include action recipient has taken. There is no restriction number of times you can regenerate, but I am repeatedly saying more and more you regenerate, your name gets reflected in the portal, and you will invite the investigating officer to do further work. GSTR 2B shall be dynamic based on action taken by you. That is said multiple times, you can go on regenerating. and only those invoices which are accepted will form part of the GSTR to be of the concerned month. Subsequently, the invoice will be frozen once you file the GSTR 3B. That we already covered. ITC in respect of only the invoices which are raised in GSTR 1 and IFF is filed by the supplier will be considered time of generation of GSTR 2B. If supplier fails to file the return time, it shall appear in GSTR 2B of the month in which supplier filed the return, even if accepted by the recipient. That means supplier say file the return, but he forgets to reflect your invoice in the month. So he says he filed the month, you have received the supply in the month of October, you have accounted for it, but supplier has filed the GSTR 1 not in October. That invoice is declared not in October, but is declared in the month of November. Then it will be reflected in your IMS in the basis in the month of November, not the month of October. The reason is that actually IMS is based on the basis of documents which are filed by the supplier. If a supplier doesn't file the document, he will not be able to base it, receive the information to be generated in IMS. Therefore, a 3B, Therefore, in your IMS system, whenever supplier files the return, it will be reflected. In 3B shall be auto-populating basis of to be regenerated, factoring the changes, and that auto-population, of course, is editable, but they may internally decide that if the variation in the percentage, say 5% or more than 10% continuously, then they may start the auditing of your record to show that what is reflected, what is correction being made is correctly made. After filing your GMS 3B, all the accepted, deemed, expected, accepted, rejected record will move out of IMS dashboard. Only pending records on IMS dashboard will be there, and these records can be accepted or future months period. That we already explained to you, that better way is to keep it pending till the time limit of section 16.4. And at the end of the section 16.4 time limit specified in section 16.4, we will take up the question answer session. Don't worry. Many are raising hands, I know. Just wait for 2 minutes, 5 by 10 minutes. And these records, in the month of time limit is expiring, you may avail the credit of whatever remaining and then reverse it, so that it doesn't have, you reverse it in the reclaimable column, so that whenever the compliance of the provision section 16.2 is made, you can retake the credit. It is therefore suggested that reflection of invoices in IMS system shall be made as a part of condition of purchase order. That's why I said in this thing, unless it is reflected, you may say that the invoices, the GST will be reimbursed only when it is reflected in IMS board. Effect of the by the supplier. Supplier can amend the invoice by till filing of GSTR 1, irrespective of the action taken by the recipient. Even if he accepted, he can amend the invoice. Once an amendment is made, the action taken by the recipient reset, and the recipient will have to take action again based on supplier this thing. Amendment can be made through GSTR 1A or amendment in GSTR 1 itself shall flow to IMS. However, the same will appear in the next month in case the amendments are made in next month in this thing. effect is this thing, if original amended records belong to the same GSTR month period, only amended record will be available in GSTR 2B. If original amended record belongs to two different GSTR 2B return period, it is mandatory for the supplier recipient to take action on the original record. So we have explained this by example in the last para. Invoice is originally reflected in the GSTR 1 for say January 24 and amended in GSTR 1 of March 24. In this case, recipient is required to first take action on invoice reported in January 24 first and file 3B and take action made in March 24. So you can't take action on the invoices, amended invoices, which is made in March 24. First, you take action on January 24 invoice, and then you take action on the March 24. Effect of amendment by supplier. If amended records are accepted where original records are also accepted by recipient, then impact of differential amount is to be given. If amended records are accepted, original records are received, then but impact of full amount is to be given. This we also explained by example. Invoice having taxable value of 10,000 in GST of 500. In GSTR 1, it is wrongly reported as taxable value of 100 and GST of 5. So actual value was 10,000, but wrongly reported in so and so. On realization, correctly reported amended taxable value of 10,000 and GST of 500. Now this is the if you already accepted it on 5, then you again accept. Sorry. Impact of on ITC of credit in GS2B for the recipient. If you again accept that amendment, then the 495 will increase. Or if you reject the amendment, then it will be it will be 100 rupees only on this. So accept the first and accept the second also, then this thing will be credit will get increased to by 495 rupees. Effect of transitional credit, we don't. IMS dashboard will not contain the details of invoices which are issued prior to August 24. In every transitional, this problem is there, which are yet to be claimed or reversed in GSTR 3B. You can still, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not a sacrosanct document, but this is only for a government to control the credit which is taken by. Availment and reversal of credit on account of such invoice of credit auto-populated in GS3B. In such cases, credit on such invoices, credit note is to be claimed, reversed in 3B manually by editing amount in this thing. That is, if you have any invoices up to August, then you can avail the credit by editing the GSTR 3B return, because what you are reflected in GSTR 2B will get auto-populated in GSTR 3B of yours, but you can always edit it and the amount you can increase. As I mentioned to you, initially government may not have any problem, but going 6 months forward, if you claim more amount, you are inviting the audit from your side. This IMS dashboard will have 2 sections. These are now what IMS board will look like. Inward supply, recipient's view, outward supply. As I said, supplier can also view what action has been taken by the recipient. Have they accepted it, rejected it, kept it pending? That he can view. So therefore, it will have 2 sections, which how it will look like is we have shown in this thing. In this. This is the manner in which finally it will be reflected in the invoice, and that is how the invoice will be reflected. This is what we have shown. How you accept it, taken, finally it will come out. This, I think, will finish the suggestion. These are already discussed in this thing. Incorrect acceptance of credit note shall increase the ITC reversal of recipient. Incorrect rejection of credit note shall increase the liability of supplier. And it is prudent to have the better discussion between supplier and recipient. Supplier should have a system of prior intimation, confirmation, issuing credit note, credit note. Accounting of original invoice as well as credit note should be a gross basis instead of booking expense on net basis. This is very important. Very often what we do is, whenever the bill amount is reduced, we always account for the net amount in the books of account. Original amount is never accounted for. Now, where the original amount will be reflected in the IMS dashboard, therefore the comparison will be difficult in future. Therefore, it is suggested that you should account for in the gross amount and then reverse in the net amount. Credit note should be made so that the invoice amount which is reflected in the books of account, invoice amount which is reflected in the IMS dashboard also tallies. I think these are some of the issues which may arise in the IMS board. Of course, government is trying their best to control the credit which is available with you. They have brought so many sections and so many this thing. Now it is over to Neha for further actions. Thank you very much for patiently listening me. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for sharing your great insights on the subject. I would now request Mr. Anish Nadkar to give the demo of IMS. Over to you, Anish.
Hello friends, we have developed features for IMS in SuperTax Portal. Over next few minutes, we will take you through the SuperTax system and demonstrate the flow. We have simplified the entire IMS process in SuperTax such that it requires only few additional clicks and certain points to be verified. The current process of RECO undertaken by SuperTax users shall continue as it is. Now let's start with fetching of IMS summary and IMS invoices. We shall navigate to Purchase. In Purchase, we shall click on New tab IMS. On this screen, we shall click on Fetch IMS Invoices and Fetch IMS Summary. As we speak, the data is currently being fetched from Government Portal on real-time basis. As you can see, the data is now already fetched. Now we shall go to existing RECO screen. In RECO screen, we have added few columns related to IMS. These columns are invoice available in IMS, mark for pending whether blocked in IMS, last action taken in IMS, and user action for IMS. So if you look at this invoice is available in IMS as it is marked as yes. Pending is allowed to be marked in this invoice as it is not blocked. Since this invoice is just fetched, no action is taken on this invoice so far. This is shown in last action in IMS. User action in IMS is the action that will be taken by the user in RECO now. So let's take action in some of the invoices and see its impact on these IMS columns. These are just the same actions that SuperTax users are taking even today. No additional work is involved at all. We will take all three actions, that is accept, reject, and pending, on three different invoices. However, these actions will be taken in bulk by SuperTax users as they normally do. So we are taking action as accept first, then reject, and now pending, which you can see on the screen. I'm again repeating, these are existing actions taken by SuperTax users and no additional efforts are required. Once the actions are taken, you can see that these actions are now marked in the column user action in IMS as accept, reject, and pending. As a matter of precaution, since you are aware that once invoice is rejected and return is filed, Currently, there is no option to claim ITC for those invoices. Hence, to be sure such mistakes are not made by the users, we have given a setting to not allow regular users to mark reject action. This will be allowed only to select users as the customer's admin may decide. Further, we have provided one more setting wherein customer can opt to automatically mark the invoices on which no action is taken as pending. SuperTax shall do the needful by itself and mark such invoices as pending in bulk if this option is selected. Now we will go to IMS dashboard once again and check the status. You can see the number of invoices are summarized under ASP as accept, reject, and pending on the basis of actions taken just now in RICO. Now we shall upload these actions in IMS on GST Portal just by clicking this button. Once done, the status of the invoices pushed, processed, and error shall appear in the summary above and also in these columns as can be seen. Now the last step for IMS is to regenerate 2B. We have created a separate tab to regenerate 2B, which is visible here. This screen shows the details such as GSTs, when was last to be fetched and its status, when was last to be regenerated and status. And finally, it also shows the status of filing of 3B. User can click on regenerate 2B under action. Once done, 2B shall be regenerated on government portal. Once generated, 2B can be fetched here to update its status. This summarizes the whole IMS process. User shall then continue with normal process of filing GSTR 3B on our system. We shall end our demo here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anish, for the demo. In case you have any further queries, you may contact SuperTax team at their phone number 91377-05073 or email at advisor@supertax.in. Now we are open for Q&A. Kindly share your questions in the Q&A box. I would request Mr. Gupta to kindly take up the questions.
We have received 30 questions. I'll read one by one and answer them. What will be the process to be followed? This is from Sandeep Segrier. In case taxpayer has erroneously accepted the invoice and ITC. As I said, amendment is possible in the multiple times before you file GSTR 3B. Subsequently, only by credit note you can do that. So as far as possible, before acceptance, be careful in this thing. Next is by Vimal Kumar Dhariwal. In case of hotel tour operator service, it will be reflected in IMS or not. It will be reflected. See, IMS board will reflect everything. Even your 17.5 item also, whatever credit you are not entitled for, it will be reflected. You have to reject those invoices. Lovelesh Maheshwari. We have the invoice and not reflected on IMS. Can we get credit on the basis of invoice by adding the same in IMS? At present, that system is not there. That, as I said, it is in section 37, 38, which I started with. That system was planned, but it is, as of now, it is not there. But whatever remains, as on the end of October of the following the financial year, you must take those credit and reverse the credit, because that is not complying with section 16 condition. The IMS dashboard not reflection means that the supplier has not uploaded the invoice. So if you do not take the credit within the time limit specified in section 64 and supplier uploads it subsequently, then you will have a time limit problem. Therefore, better view is that you go on taking the credit as and when it is reflected in 2B. But when it comes to August, September after the financial year, you take entire credit and differential which is there, you reverse it out. Chetan Vani, if yes, in which GSTR 3B, if yes, in which GSTR 3B the same month, oh sorry, I'm sorry, Chetan, I'm sorry. In case credit note is not accepted with the recipient, then whether it will get added in the GSTR 3B liability of the computation of supplier? Yes, it will be. And if yes, in which GSTR 3B same month or subsequent month? It will always be subsequent month, no? Because once the supplier, if whichever month is the recipient has accepted or not accepted, in the that month it will reflect it. Charu Vyas, if invoice is rejected by recipient, what will happen on the accounting? That you will talk to recipient, what he'll do with the accounting. You know, if he has not rejected it basically because your material is rejected, if you are rejected it because the material was in transit in the same month it is not received, like in 29th of September, you have dispatched the material from your factory, but it has reached to them in October. So in that month, he should keep it pending. But we don't know, it may reject it also in this month. So therefore, you talk to supplier and do the accounting. Accounting will always be by credit note. It cannot be your accounting without credit note. This is going to create issues whenever rejection is there. That's why in my lecture also said, before rejection, the person should talk to supplier. I mean, unilateral rejection will create a lot of issues in this. Credit available in 2B, but not in IMS, then what is the impact of IT7? As I said, you can avail in the month. The auto-populated amount is editable. But more and more you avail the credit, you will invite the ITC audit by the department. Then Mutturaj R, in case of supplier issues invoice for this 1 lakh plus GST 18,000, but the recipient accounts only 90,000 plus GST. That's why our suggestion is that you must account in the gross amount. Because see, in your example, what will happen is, moment recipient accounts are 90,000 plus 16,000, he will avail the credit of only 16,000. And now you issue a credit note to him. He will not be able to accept that credit note. Therefore, one way is that recipient should always account gross amount. That's what our suggestion is. But if a recipient acknowledge only the net amount, then this problem will definitely arise. So this is an accounting problem which department, that's why I said, they should permit you to keep the credit note pending. That is the only way it can be resolved. If they don't permit you, Muthuraji, तो बहुत problem उसको create होगा. Anyway, Sandeep Shedge, I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrongly. If a recipient reject the invoice, what will be the impact on supplier for rejection of tax invoice and credit note? As I explained to you, if a recipient reject the invoice without having taken the credit, if a rejection is the same month, possibly you need not upload that in GSTR1 and credit note and invoice both in the same month. May not upload it. But if it happens in the next month, you are upload the invoice September, he rejects in October without taking credit, then you are in trouble, because if you do not upload the invoice in credit note, your liability will not reduce. If you upload the credit note and if he does not accept it, he cannot accept it because his credit is not taken. Therefore, my suggestion is all you must represent that you allow it to keep it pending. Otherwise, this is going to create issues for everybody. Hemant Kumar Patel, what is the time limit under section 16.4? Is the October of the following month. I mean, that's the department circular, but legally, if you want to contest, you can go up to November. Preferably, you should try to do it in October itself. Harish Kagraraji, whether accepting or not accepting invoice amount to contractual binding on the reception. No. This is not true. IMS is not part of the contract binding on this thing. No way. Kailash Devkarji, any time limit for taken action of the document? That's I said, The whatever remains pending, it will be reflected in the next month's dashboard. But if you have taken acceptance, then the value, the credit will get free after you file the GSTR 3B. Haresh Kagra, Kailash Heda. Is our action reflected in supplier login? Action, I'm not clear, Kailash bhai. You can elaborate. Supplier can see our action. Haresh Kagra, Abhilash Keshan. Sir, please confirm what will be the case for a block credit. You have to reject the invoice. Wherever you find that the invoice is a block credit, you can reject the invoice. Haresh Kagrana ji, if no action taken, then and there will be deemed acceptance, it will get reflected in 2B. Then what is the harm and negative reflect on acceptance? No, harm is that, see, if it is the deemed acceptance in your accounting, books of account do not support you. Your invoice is not accounted for. In the factory, the goods are rejected and you are not, kept it pending. You have taken a credit. Then that will be wrong. It will be violation of section 16. Therefore, that credit will be denied to you. Lalit Jain, in case of credit note issued by is rejected by the purchaser against incorrect invoice, it's compulsory the purchaser should reject the original invoice, but original invoice should first reject it. And if he reject both the invoice and this thing, possibly okay. But the purchaser not accounted for and credit not coming in this picture, then there is a problem. Anyway, Raghupati S. Rao, what happens? What happens if we do not take any action on the pending invoices till 31st October, which are not accounted in our books of account? See, that will get from dashboard, it will go away. So therefore, you will not have a chance to accept it in future. One thing. Secondly, is that when subsequently, suppose the supplier files a return. Say by 31st October 24, he has not filed the return, but he filed the return in December. And you have not taken credit and reversed it. And the reversal should be in the reclaimable portion column. You will not be able to claim the credit again. So therefore, our suggestion is that whatever remains pending, you take the credit and you reverse the credit immediately. So that there is no utilization of credit. And if any supplier subsequently comes to you and says, sir, now I'm declaring this in my GSTR1 return, you will be able to help him out in the availing credit. Sagar, suppose we have not received goods in current month, but supplier has issued a credit note, then can we keep such credit note pending? As I said, the pending is not, as of now, there is nothing in this. Lavlesh Maheshwari, what would be the credit note previously issued by supplier on or before 1410 to the, no, it is prior to 30th September, it will not be reflected. You may continue with the same system which you are doing. This we are discussing only after what credit notes are issued in 1st September, 1st October onwards. The Prashant, if supplier raised the invoice on 1st September 24 and filed GSTR within due date, the recipient can view the invoice on the GSTR portal. If recipient rejects the invoice before the due date of GSTR 3B, then supplier is still required to pay the GST liability on the same invoice. Well, the supplier can issue the credit note and reduce it. But if you are already reflected in the GSTR1, be ready. If you are not paying a tax on any particular credit note, the department will come and verify your record to say that he has rejected it, and then you have to explain to him that GSTR1 and GSTR 3B mismatch is there on account of the fact that there is a rejection by a supplier of any supplier. But the question may be asked by the department. Nidhi Chavan, how to treat supplier who file 3B quarterly? And then you keep it pending. Once you file the 3B quarterly, then you accommodate on a quarterly basis. Sagar Joshi, since 2B is generated on 13th and IMS report will be generated by 10th, any invoice accepted post 13th, whether invoice 2B will be available, remark as ITC or ITC rejected. Yeah, they said it can be done multiple times. No, it's not 13th is sacrosanct. You go on taking action, they will go on generating the invoice 2B. Mehul Doshi, if credit note is compulsorily accept or reject, then it does it mean that we have to accept or reject between 11th and yes, midnight may as on as 13th midnight 2B will be generated. Yes. चलिए हरेश भाई सप्लायर फाइल GSTR किधर गया supplier file GSTR 1/11 then will the invoice will be reflected in IMS reception. We'll have to wait and watch. As of now it doesn't seems to be so. Jagbandhu Karni, hi sir, whether the invoice shall be reflected in IMS irrespective of filing of GST or return. No, only when you file GST or return that will be reflected in IMS board. Otherwise, how can it be reflected? Government doesn't dream that it is you have issued the invoices. Supplier liability in 3B change on the basis of rejection of invoice or no action taken by reception. No. Supplier liability will not be changed. That is based on GSTR 1. As I said, if you feel that it is rejected and GSTR 1, suppose you have shown the supplier the 1 crore and your supplier has rejected the invoice of 10 lakhs, you know that. Then you can issue a credit note and pay for 90 lakhs. Pay GST for 90 lakhs, but be ready that the department can come and find out your liability GSTR 1 is higher, payment is low. Why? Then they can ask you a question. Eliminate, is it compulsory to use IMS compliance? If we ignore compliance, the government will come and inquire about it. You'll have to, as I said, no, every time when government will auto-populate the credit in your GSTR 3B. If you do not accept anything, it will be deemed acceptance. It will get auto-populated in your GSTR 3B. In such a case, and you go on editing at that point of time, the department will come and audit. Because they will get the record how many persons have altered the GSTR 3B which was auto-populated and how much amount was auto-populated. Be ready to answer those questions. Charu Vyas, vendor invoices in IMS will reflect on the basis of filing GSTR 1 or on uploading the invoice or both. No, filing of GSTR 1. Sir, earlier debit note, credit note were required to be linked to original invoices. This requirement was removed later. It appears that now we need to issue debit credit note with link to original invoices, tax invoice. Please guide further if supplier issues credit note which pertains to April to September 24 prior to IMS, how to deal with it. Also, commercial credit notes will be valid as per existing law. Commercial credit note will be valid. It will not be reflected in your GSTR 1. Therefore, it will not come in the IMS also. Whatever invoices are reflected prior to September 24, if you are giving with a credit note, please talk to the recipient first, saying that we are giving a credit note, you have taken credit, please reverse the credit. Please accept the credit note, so your credit gets reversed. Before talking to him, do not issue the credit note, otherwise there will be a problem. Regeneration of IMS will replace the original GSTR to be on GST portal. Yes, it will. Hemant Kumar Patel, if no ITC is being taken at all, then what precaution is to be taken in IMS? All have to be rejected, like a builder. If as a builder you are not allowed to take the credit, you reject all the ITCs. Regeneration of to be on IMS and once pushed on a GST portal, will it change original GST to be populated with import of goods, RCM, ICD, and will only be reflect the accepted, rejected, pending, action taken? No, these are separate columns. So you will have to be with the supplier's invoice, you'll have to be reflecting the import of goods, RCM and ISD. So it will get replaced with that amount. Supplier upload the invoice wrongly and issued credit note thereafter. Then what he will do, sir? There's a big question, which is if you are not taken the credit, what he will do if it done in the September next month? I mean, it is definitely the recipient will have to first take the credit and then reverse the credit. That is a big question. If you ask me, This is going to complicate the entire system at all. Because the way it has been drafted, let us see after representation whether they are willing to amend this thing. Because you are right, most of the recipient will not be willing to account the invoice the moment the goods are rejected. They'll say, no, it is not forming part of my purchase, I will not do that. And if it happens in subsequent month, this will create a lot of issues. What in the case of invoices uploaded in September 24 and issues created on the same month for wrong invoice? So what action? You both the things you don't reflect. Our suggestion is you don't reflect the invoice also in GSTR1 and don't reflect the credit note also GSTR1. Your liability will reduce. Siddesh Kshatriya, in case of new projects, real estate with the ITC is not available, whether to accept, reject all the invoices. Don't keep it. It is a deemed acceptance. Otherwise, all credit will get reflected here to be. Kunal Nirvan, good evening, sir. Will this be applicable for GSTR 3B of September 24? I don't know. We can't say this thing, but my opinion, nothing in this thing. After availing the credit by accepting IMS, and if the supplier amends the same, what are the consequences in this thing? That we explained by example. That if its supplier has increased it, then if you accept the amendment, your credit will also be increased. If supplier has reduced it, then your credit will also get reduced. Harjit Parker, do we get IMS report monthly displaying invoice-wise details? Yeah, monthly on this. Ganesh More. What will happen if we raise credit note to my customer and customer is rejecting same? And on the contrary, customer issuing invoice to me rather to accept my credit note. Reverse wala. Issue a invoice, it will come. See, if we raise credit note to my customer and customer is rejecting the same, so this thing is over. On the contrary, customer issues me invoice to this. You accept or reject. You accept the invoice, your credit will be there in your system. There's no problem. But only thing is goods now. If the goods itself do not come, what happens to rejected goods? They should also travel to your factory and it gets reflected in section 16.2. Compliance will be there then. Yeah. Nagarjun Reddy Chinta. Sir, original invoice and amendment invoice in the same month. Don't declare that in the same GSTR1 at all. Alpesha, in import case, some bill of entry are not reflected, then what will be the action taken? You take the credit. Bill of entry reflection is only a procedural aspect. Jagbandhu Karni, whether the invoice shall be reflected in the receptionist IMS, irrespective of filing GSTR1 return of the supplier. No, it will be reflected only when GSTR1 is return filed by the supplier. Otherwise, it can't be reflected. IMS is mandatory. It will become optional today, but mandatory. See, problem is, Mishraji, is this that if you do not take action on IMS, it will auto-populate into your books of 3B. And then you go on auditing. Initial month, the department may not have any problem, but moment you go on editing this figure of 3B auto-population, then you're inviting audit person. So whichever way you want to do it, you can do that. Therefore, there's a deemed acceptance. Hai na? Come. Ayush Mittal. In case during GSTR1, GSTN of the parties mentioned wrongly by mistake, and the party in whose IMS it is reflected have rejected the invoice, in this case, we'll have to amend the GSTR1 itself. You know, the amended GSTR1, there's a provision. Once you can amend that. So then it will auto get reflected in that. Nikita Vishwakarma, is there any relation of this IMS with last year's amendment of electronic credit reversal ledger? No, I don't know. I don't think so. The ITC reflecting to be but not accepted as as bills are not booked, need to report in 3B and reverse, which we are presently doing as carried forward ITC. You can do that as carried forward ITC also. That's not a problem. Ghanshyam Patil, will RCM document received from registered supplier also refer? No. We have already explained this thing. Reverse wala nahi aayega isme. Somnath Thorat, in case invoice accounted partially, what will be the treatment of this? This is going to create an issue, as I said, explain to you. I don't know whether the recipient will be able to account in the gross amount. This we are right now, we have no solution to that. The department has to come out with some, like in section 34, the reversal, verification of reversal was creating a problem. Then they came out with a circular that you get the CA certificate that reversal has been made. Something of that they'll have to bring it out. Otherwise, these acceptance of credit note, wrong accounting, all these things create a problem in this thing. Then Ganesh Maurya, invoice visible in IMS 1000, but we are eligible for credit of 80. Then how will we take action taken in this thing? You can edit when the amount get reflected in your GST 3B, you can edit and reduce the amount. Reduction, they may not have any problem. Only increase, they will have a problem. Pending and due to accept for more than 1.5 years. No. If CN if the credit amount is a credit note, they're not allowing you to keep it pending. No, they are allowing you accept or reject for this thing. If they allow you to keep it pending, you can talk to supplier and take appropriate action. What is to be done? How original invoice and amended invoice is same month? That we already answered. No. Kajal Gupta, whether the action are to be taken individually one by one or they can be uploaded once through some utility. I don't know whether, as of now, one by one will have to be taken. Aa jayega. Let us see. Wrongly and issued credit note thereafter, then what will we do, sir? As recipient part. See, you to reject that thing. Supplier has a problem if these two comes in a different month. If he has the same month, his suggestion is not to upload the invoice and the credit note, both. Lalit Jain, for block credit for under construction property, we take input and reverse the same under protest. How the same will work in IMS? Same way, it will go, you go on doing it. Same system will work in the IMS also. Yeah. If any block credit were accepted and reversed under temporary reversal 4B2, can we reject the same in the subsequent month? Block credit were accepted and reversed under, you already reversed, no? Then you need not worry about this thing. Penal Mistry, in case of IMS deemed acceptance when the credit flows in GST 2B, can we report it in our table 4B2? For the invoice that are not appearing in our ITC register. 4B2 is that reclaimable credit. Then I think yes, you can do that. Deepak Uttekar, in case of invoice, partial is under block and ineligible credit, and remaining item will be eligible. That's why I said you have to take the full credit and reverse the entire amount, accept the invoice and then reverse it. See, every reversal, you should keep the invoice-wise detail. Please keep, otherwise department will say, you have wrongly taken the credit, reversal I am not accepting. This is what we are facing a problem at so many places. Akash Gupta, how to claim part block credit in same invoice? Example, hotel food and stay. Yeah. Accept the invoice fully, reverse on the food item. Varshali Devdar, what is the process to be followed by RCM service in IMS? No, IMS is not concerned with RCM at all. If no action was taken on the invoice and it is reflected as accepted in portal, do we compulsorily have to take credit in 3B? No, you can always audit it in this thing. Edit the amount and do it subsequently. Any time limit for taking action on the document? As I said, whatever time limit prescribed in section 16.4 will still apply on this. What happens if we do not take any action on the credit note? Will it get reduced in 3B? No, you have to accept or reject. You can't keep it pending. That's what I have been harping on. You to do that. Nagarjun did. Without referring original invoice, it is very difficult to accept credit. That's why I said our suggestion is that every supplier before erasing the credit note must do that. See, I understand in a large organization, tax department will not know what for the credit notes are there. I mean, unless the purchase department tells him, sir, ye uska hai, and we have not taken credit, we have rejected the goods, it is going to be very difficult. So the department has to understand this. Otherwise, this will be another Pandora's box. Roshni Sawant, if the recipient rejects the tax invoice debit note for supplies, which was referred as to be of October 24 as eligible for ITC, given that the last date of the available ITC is now 30th number, what will happen? Reject the tax invoice debit note for supplies which was reflected in GST of October 24. October 24, so you still have a time, no? You have to go up to October 25 as eligible for ITC. Given that the last date to avail the ITC for 23-24 is November 30. This will not come in October 24, invoice will not be in 23-24. It is 24-25 actually. Prashant Shelar, we are a construction firm. Should we accept or reject hotel and you have to reject all the invoices? Sir, you are not entitled for a credit because you are paying the tax on 5%. Unless you are a commercial and you are paying commercial construction, you are paying the entire amount of credit. Taking the entire amount of credit. Same. OC received and few finishing activities ITC may come up which are ineligible in nature. Should we accept the ITC under IMS and we declare in 3B and under 4-5 and reverse in 3B and so? I think we declare in 3B and reverse under 4-5 because you have to comply with the notification of 4/19. Multiple generation of 2B shall be there any implication? No, it will not have any implication, but so repeatedly multiple generation may invite audit problems. That's all. Is IMS compulsory reception? Well, that's already explained to you. It is a compulsory, sort of compulsory, otherwise you will have the issue. Supplier shown both invoice and credit note in IMS, but credit note not accounted in books of account, then how will we show on portal? As I said, credit note has a multiple issues and government, unless it allows it to keep it pending, everybody will face problem in this. Deemed acceptance of invoice, we not avail the ITC in 3B, but due to goods and service not received, can we get the credit later month? Yes, you can get. You keep it pending. Yeah, or you edit the amount and showing the month in which you have received the goods. Invoice in IMS of 100 ITC and we are eligible for 80 ITC, the same booked in 18 books of account. It is about partial ITC. Yes, you can do that, but this will create problem for supplier. As a recipient, you are perfectly right. Nagarjun Reddy Chinta. How recipient will know the GST and amended invoices, which is wrongly uploaded by supplier, which is kept pending. How it removes from IMS. No, you can't remove from IMS. It will only be removed after the period of 16.4 is over. It will automatically be removed. Sir, if credit note is rejected by customer, it increases the supplier liability in subsequent month. Then whether supplier will be subject to interest on such increased liability in the next month? Yes. The answer is yes. Last question. Assessment view that what is good procedure we should follow. I already explained to you, Maheshwari ji. Already in so many questions we have explained this thing. Can I take multiple times on the same document? Can I take? Yeah. Till 3B is filed, you can do that. But your action multiple time again, these are all get recorded, no, in the books of in the portal. So department has that record available, how many times you amended these documents. Do we accept or reject, or do we accept, have to reject or show any amount blocked credit in the table 4B1? दिखा सकते हैं. You can accept and show in reversal. Jagbandhu, if only invoice number and date is matching, but taxable and tax amount is not matching, should we reject the invoice or keep it pending? Pending, talk to him. Anjani Tiwari, why will I reject 17.5 credit invoice? Instead, we should show it under 4B1. That's why your problem, that you can show under 4B1 also. See, I must tell you one thing. You show under 4B1, be ready, you keep the invoice-wise detail of what you have done it. Sometimes department takes the view that you have taken credit, show me the reversal. Now, reversal needs to be certified invoice-wise by the chartered accountant, so that he is sure that same amount has been reversed. Jyoti Chaudhary, we are a travel company. We used to reverse the ITC credit of our suppliers. So with this system, we cannot do the same or not. We can do that. You can do that. There is no problem. Limit for regeneration of GST at 2B. Limit is you can do any time, any number of times. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, hello, Maheshwari ji. Santosh Parab. Can the place of supply be changed by supplier in GST urban? No. You can't change it here. What will be the can the place of supply be changed by the supplier can change it. And what will be the impact of GST at 3B? If it is same, if it is same as the state in which you are located, the invoice will reflect in the IMS system. Whether data for September will reflect IMS or it will start reflecting October. We are not very sure, but let us see when it comes up. Sham Dongre, how to take credit of IGST paid through bill of entry? That you straight away reflect in 3B in the imported goods. What happens to the credit note shown by supplier in GST 1 is reference to expire in damaged goods. What action is to be taken by the recipient in GST 3B post IMS system? Supplier not shown, no credit not that we don't have to take any system. Once it is not shown, nothing. Thank you very much, friends. All questions are answered. Okay, thanks.
We had an overwhelming response to the webinar. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, and all our panelists, and also to the attendees. I'm sure you all had an insightful session. We will now conclude the session. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.